Today we're diving into something that affects all of us, the state of the U.S. economy. With inflation, rising housing costs, job security concerns, and the increasing cost of living, many Americans are feeling the pressure. So let's break this down in simple terms and look at what's really going on and why so many people are dissatisfied. Let's start with inflation. You've probably noticed that everything seems more expensive these days. Groceries, gas, rent, you name it. So what exactly is inflation? Basically, inflation is when prices for goods and services go up, and the value of your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to. Right now, the U.S. is dealing with high inflation rates, which hit a peak of about 9% in mid-2022. And although it's slowed down, we're still seeing higher than average prices today. Why does this happen? There are a few reasons, but a big one is supply and demand. During the pandemic, supply chains were disrupted, making goods harder to get. Meanwhile, government stimulus programs put more money in people's pockets. So, demand shot up while supply was down, causing prices to rise. Energy prices also skyrocketed, pushing costs up across the board. Even though inflation has started to ease, for most of us, it doesn't feel like much has changed. It's still tough out there, and people are having to make difficult choices, like cutting back on non-essentials or dipping into savings. Next up, housing costs. Whether you're renting or trying to buy a home, you've probably noticed how expensive it's become. In fact, housing prices have skyrocketed by nearly 40% since 2020. That's right, 40% in just a few years. So what's causing this? A lot of it comes down to supply and demand again. There simply aren't enough homes being built to meet demand, especially in big cities. At the same time, mortgage interest rates have gone up because the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates to fight inflation. This has made it more expensive to borrow money, so fewer people are buying homes. And rents are going up because more people are renting instead. For renters, the situation is tough too. Many landlords raised rents in response to higher property costs and inflation, leaving renters with few affordable options. As a result, people are spending a larger share of their income on housing, some spending over 50% just on rent. Now let's talk about job security. On the surface, it seems like the U.S. job market is in a good place. Unemployment is low, just 3.8%. But even with low unemployment, many Americans still feel unsure about their job security. Why? For starters, wages haven't kept up with inflation. Even though people are working, their paychecks aren't going as far as they used to, which makes it harder to get by. Another issue is the rise of temporary and gig work. More people are working short-term jobs without benefits or job stability. This leaves workers vulnerable because if something happens, like an economic downturn or another pandemic, they could lose their income without any safety net. And let's not forget about the tech industry, where layoffs have been frequent in recent years. So while there are jobs, they might not provide the stability or income growth that people need to feel secure. Finally, let's look at the overall cost of living. Inflation, housing costs, healthcare, education, it's all adding up, and it's putting a real strain on everyday Americans. People are cutting back on spending, using credit cards more, and even delaying major life milestones like buying a home, getting married, or having children because they simply can't afford it. According to recent surveys, nearly 70% of Americans say they're dissatisfied with the state of the economy. Sure, some sectors like tech and finance offer high salaries, but for most people, real wage growth has been pretty flat. So even though you might be earning more than you were 5 years ago, your purchasing power has decreased. So what does this all mean? The U.S. economy is in a complicated place right now. Inflation is slowing, but prices are still high. Housing is more expensive than ever, and job security isn't guaranteed, even in a strong job market. All of this is contributing to the dissatisfaction we're seeing in the country. But there's hope. The Federal Reserve is working to manage inflation, and while it's going to take time, experts believe the worst may be behind us. Meanwhile, many are calling for policy changes that address affordable housing and wage growth to help everyday Americans keep up with rising costs. At the end of the day, understanding these issues is the first step in managing them. It's tough out there, but staying informed helps us navigate these challenging times. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below with your thoughts.